explain to me, though, is that when they say they are replicating the Big Bang, what do they literally mean by that? Because to replicate the Big Bang literally, you would have to explode the...
I think I'm probably the luckiest bloke in the world. I absolutely enjoy the job. There's nothing about it that isn't enjoyable. But as a general rule, I mean, everything about it is good fun.
Hello, talkSPORT. What is it you wanted to say? You wanted to say about monkeys? No, not really.
All right, Daniel is in Wandsworth. Hello, Daniel. Hello, mate. Welcome to the talkSPORT Late Show, sir. What have you got?
I've been doing the job for probably about 18 years, which actually sounds like a really long time. I suppose it is a long time. But it feels, in some respects, it feels like it's been about 5 minutes. What keeps me doing it is that it's absolutely different every day. It's never, 2 days are never the same.
23344. What's that? Somebody emailed in and said, women never talk about their vaginas.
Quite a lot of diversity and fun and entertainment and just general weirdness and mayhem at times. With the light-hearted stuff, it's much more entertaining radio, but it takes much more work to do. I think it's often looking for that quirk in a subject. I think everybody is... I've always believed that everybody has the same experiences on a day-to-day basis, pretty much. Over a given week, you know, we all have a moment where somebody doesn't say thank you for opening the door. We all have a moment where we get cut up by another driver. We all have a moment when a bill arrives through our door and it's not the right bill. And it's what you do with that information, really. So it's how you process what are essentially everyday things and bring them to life.
Never mind all of that. There is big news. Guess what's coming back to television? What is Bod?
Yeah, ain't Bod.
No Bod. Tanya, what do you reckon's coming back? Think of some great retro experience you had as a kid on television. Crossroads. Yeah, that would be the third time that thing had come back. You know what's coming back on? The Rent-A-Ghost show. Don't cheer, it was rubbish.
But there will always be somebody who only wants the serious, and they will then confuse the light-hearted with the flippant, and it's not flippant at all. There's actually more work gone into that. To actually sit down and craft some subjects or some ideas just takes a little more work, and so it should.
Okay, let me take your name. Daryl. And where are you calling from, Daryl? Please stay there, and I'll put you on hold and you'll hear the program coming down the line. Okay, alright. Hello, talkSPORT. Hello.
Hey, yeah, I've got Colonel Sanders' detail.
Did you hear
yes.
what the...
We have a couple of meetings in the week, usually at the beginning of the week, where we set up what's going to happen either the following week or the week after that. So everything is usually worked out about 2 weeks in advance.
A yellowing sheet of paper, okay, with the famous corporate secret recipe is being moved today under heavy guard. KFC is temporarily locating Colonel Sanders' handwritten fried chicken recipe. It will be in a briefcase.
Day to day, the topical stuff, it almost happens organically. You know, from the moment you wake up, you're watching the news, you're reading the news. I'll then have a chat to Catherine, who's our daytime producer, and we'll run over some stories. So we'll have like a phone meeting. I'll then speak to Ash, and we'll talk about whether there's any way of taking a certain idea beyond just talking about it, so we can add audio, or just something that brings a subject a bit more alive than just chatting.
John Van Wy was our guest a second ago talking Darwin. Let's speak to Stephen Green, who's the National Director of Christian Voice. Stephen, hello, sir. Now, first of all...
Sometimes we'll have a night that just locks into more serious debate. And once you get onto that, you can't get off it. I mean, we do a lot, we always use this phrase, crunching gear change between serious and light-hearted, but there are some subjects that you really, you know, they need a little more respect.
God was a force, a person, an energy. Can you sort of, in layman's terms, Stephen, just outline?
I mean, you are sort of jack of all trades as the presenter, really. You have to kind of muster opinions on most things. The surefire way to get a programme properly cooking and bubbling away nicely with lots of response is to give an opinion. If you sit on the fence and say, do you think this, or do you think that? You won't really get calls. The diversity of public opinion is clearly what makes a show like mine work. But I think presenters learn from listeners, and listeners can learn from presenters, and listeners learn from other listeners. And you'd like to think that there are things that we do on the show, not necessarily from me, but as a show, that people take away and think, well, that is quite interesting, whether it's a specific fact or whether it's a certain way of shaping opinion, whatever it happens to be.
Let's take a call from Ron, who's over here. Hello, Ron. No, Ron has gone. We can get Ron back, I think. I believe I cut him off. George is in Farnborough. George,
Excuse
hello.
me, I do beg
We
your
get it
pardon.
back. Yes, George.
What it is that I think there's a problem going on here.
If you'll excuse me, we've just lost a call on air. I just have to get that back. Excuse me a second. Sorry.
Want me to get him? I'll get him here.
Can you?
Even greater guy. Here is where the problem comes.
Hello?
Hi Ron, I'm sorry about that, I'll put you back on hold.
Okay, thanks.
Hello mate.
All right, okay, George, got your point there. Let's take a call from Ron, who's on the M1. Hello, Ron.
If you think
Yes,
about
sir.
it, you're given 3 hours every night on a national radio station and via the internet beyond to talk to the entire country, and a show that has huge listeners as well, with your own opinions. I mean, there's very few places you can do that. We all have opinions, or other people have opinions we can't quite believe anybody has. And again, I think that there's a certain amount of instinct in these things. Some people have an opinion that you just know is wrong by any measure. It's just wrong. And there are certain things, it's wrong to stand up in a theatre and shout fire. It's wrong to deny the Holocaust. Those things I don't think you can really cite those about as freedom of speech issues or somebody's right to hold those beliefs.
Why do you even entertain these guys called Fathers for Justice? I met one of them once. Didn't like him. One of these guys who just cannot accept they don't have it in them to keep a family together. They're weak-minded fools. Most of all, they are bitter men. Try being a better father before you want the general public to give you justice. Like, grow up and stop acting like an idiot. Yeah, it's all complete.
I mean, the free speech issue has never been more under the spotlight, really, than it is now. And that's extraordinary. You would never have thought that in 2008 there would be issues. I mean, to me, there's some quite obvious stuff that you don't say that is overtly offensive. It's not provocative or controversial, it's just offensive. And I think we just all know what those areas are. Some people do get, I think, confused by what is controversial and what is either bad taste or just wrong. But again, it's down to the individual, isn't it, to decide what they think is, if somebody listens to something and they're offended by it, it might not be illegal or wrong for you to have spoken about it, but nonetheless they were still offended.
Used to like your show, now you're talking like a perv. Bye, says Franco. But he's still listening. Bye, Franco, but he's still there. He's still there. How are we talking like a perv? Because we're talking about balls.
I often wonder how offence manifests. I mean, does an arm fall off or something? I mean, what happens to these people when they say, I feel offended? How offended are they really? But there is a sort of code of what you can and can't say, what you can and can't influence, etc. And I think that just gets harder. It gets harder because more people will complain than would have done 10 years ago. And I don't know why that is, other than the internet and email has made it easier for people to complain. Every night, people will email in to me personally with the most incredible complaints and comments and things. That's just part of the job. You just ignore them.
And the weird thing is the man saying it is still listening. How extraordinary. What do we got here? Paul says, at times you speak like a dustman, uncouth. At your age, isn't it time you got some class? Well, I wouldn't disagree with any of that. I mean, my mother's been saying it for a long, long time.
If you stop
Yes.
getting those, then you have to pack your bags and go. Those people always carry on listening. They're there 2 weeks later, they're there 2 years later. They never go away. So in a bizarre, almost twisted way, that's an endorsement.